The talk is about the economic and financial crisis, the multiple crises, including the environmental aspects of this deep crisis, the deepest crisis of capitalism in all its history, we have to say. And I will try to give some ideas on the perspectives, how to overcome this crisis. But I have at the beginning already to confess that my words concerning the outcome or the way out, the Uscite, dalla, crisi, will not be very concrete. I think nobody can be very concrete because this is a work of millions and perhaps billions of people all around the world, and not the result of a workshop, of the working of an intellectual in his study. Well, I will first deal with the crisis of finance, the real economy, energy, climate, and food, then touching upon the reasons of the financial crisis, which is, as I said, the deepest in the history of capitalism. I will then turn to the ecological aspects before, at the end, touching upon some of the ideas concerning solidarity economy, the economia solidale. Okay. This is not my computer, and therefore I don't know it so well, but I think I find the correct buttons. This picture gives you an idea on the long-term development of capitalism since the end of the 18th century, since the Industrial Revolution. The data which are transformed into this diagram are collected by the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the Organization of the Industrialized Countries, in a so-called Millennium Report in the year 2000. And in this Millennium Report, the OECD showed that in the long history since during the last 2,000 years, there was, until the Industrial Revolution, only very small growth rates, nearly stagnation of income and of wealth in the world. But at the same moment, there was a great equality in the world. As you see, the figures show, the columns show very clearly that there was no real development over nearly 2,000 years, and that the differences between Western Europe, the Western offshoots, these are the offsprings in North America, the United States, Canada, Australia, and so on, or in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, the differences were very, very small. People in the world were measured in money, in US dollar of the year 1990. I think that is rather crazy as an idea, but it is plausible as an idea. The differences between the incomes in the different parts of the world were very, very tiny, and the level was also not so high. It was around 400 US dollar per capita per year, and the growth rates were small. But then with the Industrial Revolution, which was at the same moment a fossil revolution because fossil energy has been used. First coal, and then beginning in the middle of the 19th century, oil. Since then, the growth rates became exploded. And when you calculate the average growth rates from 1820 until the end of the 20th century, 1998, then you find out that the average growth rate in real terms was 2.21%. 2.21%. What does it mean? That means that each generation, when we calculate one generation 30 years, is doubles their wealth compared to the former generation. So that's an absolute increase and explosive increase of wealth occurred in these 200, more or less 200 years from the Industrial Revolution until the end of the 20th century. And at the same time, the differences between different world regions also grow. The average income per capita in real terms in the USA or in Europe or in Japan was more than 20,000 US dollar at the end of the 20th century. Today it's much more, but it is declining in the crisis. But in Africa or in the Asian countries, especially in South Asia, the per capita income was only 1/10 and even less than that what we observed in the industrialized world. Growth and growing divergence of incomes and wealth in the world, that is the characteristics of the Industrial Revolution and the times after. This lasted until the end of the 20th century, and that was a success story, without any doubt, because people became richer and richer. But on the other hand, we have to take into consideration that also the damages done to nature also became more important, because economic process and wealth in real terms always means that there takes place the transformation of matter and energy, and as the physical laws tell us, this is only possible when we also increase the so-called entropy, when we increase also the waste and diminish the natural resources. But at the end of the 20th century, already at the end of the 20th century, something happened which was quite new. First of all, since the 70s, the world order, as it had been established at the end of the Second World War, break down. The most famous aspect of this breakdown of the world order was the collapse of the so-called Bretton Woods system, the transition to flexible exchange rates, and then the liberalization of financial markets. This is very important. And it means the end of an epoch and the introduction into another epoch. Because two of the most crucial prices in a capitalist world economy, the interest rate as well as the exchange rate, have been liberalized. They were no more regulated by official institutions, by nation states, by central banks, by international organizations like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, but by private actors. And who are the private actors on financial markets, international ones? Banks, funds, insurance companies, big transnational corporations. They now are forming those prices which are so important for the economic conditions of development for everybody in the world.